The question is that the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Dunkley.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It is extraordinary to rise to speak after a speech given by a former minister from a party that was in government for the better part of a decade, and from a party that came to Parliament with the urgent recall of Parliament in December to put a cap on power prices and voted against it, and yet just spent some of his precious speaking time trying to suggest that the Albanese government has done nothing to deal with rising energy prices, having voted against the measure to reduce rising energy prices and having been part of a government and a minister, no less, in that government, where the report that was given to the government before the last election in May last year about increasing energy prices was, what was it again? Hidden from the Australian public. A minister who was a minister for housing, and 8 months after his tenure, we are facing a housing affordability and accessibility crisis, and somehow thinks that the people in his electorate and the people of Australia are going to believe that that just sprung out of nowhere in the last 8 months and had nothing to do with the bad policies and lack of policies of the government he was a part of. I know it's the last day of 2 weeks of sitting and we're all a little bit tired because we've been working so hard, we want to go home, but it's not really an excuse for the member for Deakin to come into this chamber and spend more time personally attacking the Prime Minister than actually talking about the issues that matter and acknowledging what's happened this year. Oh, cheaper medicines came in from the 1st of January, the biggest cut in the price of the PBS in 75 years. Cheaper childcare starts on the 1st of June or July. Anyway, very soon. Huge impact on the cost of living. What happened after we got elected last year? Because we made submissions to the Fair Work Commission and were brave enough to say that workers on the lowest incomes needed to have more money, the minimum wage went up. And to return to the energy price cap and the evidence so far that the increases in energy prices have been reduced because of the urgent measures that we took in December that the opposition voted against. So to just imply that this government is not dealing with cost of living pressures is just like fanciful Alice in Wonderland garbage, to be completely frank, to this chamber. And what have we done this week? What are our priorities? Housing Future Fund, National Reconstruction Fund. We've got a safeguard mechanism, paid parental leave. One of those four got support from the opposition. One of those four. We are in a crisis of affordable and accessible housing, and we've all been talking about it for a long time. I've told this chamber a number of times about this amazing young man, Jack, in my electorate, who was homeless and is now a social worker with the council and is part of a campaign for more youth crisis accommodation in my electorate. I talked about it all through the last term of government, who did nothing about it. So excited this week to see the state Labor government has stepped up and is investing in this space. Our excellent state member for Frankston, Paul Edbrook, announced the state government is delivering more than $50 million in funding to provide safe and stable accommodation for young people at risk of homelessness. Frankston is going to be home to one of 10 new youth housing projects that receive funding, and this is huge for my community. We have a state government stepping up to break the cycle of homelessness, to talk about and deliver safe, secure housing, particularly for young people, and a federal Albanese Labor government, which I'm proud to be a member of, with the Housing Future Fund, which is going to make a massive difference, a $10 billion fund, and we have an opposition that is voting against it, and a Greens party that apparently doesn't support it because they want to do other things. It's just unbelievably wrong.
The question